So Greg, one of the things that's been really fun to see you get very excited about this week is the work that you're doing right now. It had been in preparation for a talk you gave at the National Gallery of Art in Washington, D.C., and it was part of a two panel discussions that took place there. And I think you really enjoyed the kind of dialogue that developed between you and another one of the collaborators who participated in the project, Gloria, Ferrari, Pinney, right?
That's absolutely right, and I am still enjoying the glow that happened from all the interchange I had with this dear colleague and friend.
Uh-huh.
And one of the things that happened during this presentation that Gloria and I did together for the National Gallery of Art is, well, it all had to do with ways of visualizing Homer. And Gloria, who is a great art historian, found some very interesting representations of Homer in a state of being that goes beyond his lifetime. You see him enthroned, receiving gestures of worship, including sacrifice of a bull, for example. And you see him receiving other offerings from worshipers. And in the studies that I have done on the lives of Homer, and I'm thinking of 11 texts that have been published featuring the life of Homer in so many varieties, I couldn't find in those things anything that corresponds to even the idea of Homer sitting on a throne and receiving worshipers. Now, my colleague Gloria found situations where it's Zeus who is sitting on the throne and receiving his worshipers, and there's one case known in the trade as the Archelaos relief, where you see essentially three registers. On the top register, it's Zeus himself, the Olympian, enthroned, receiving the worship of even his family, including the Muses. And then at the bottom of the same relief, you see Homer sitting on a corresponding throne, receiving worshipers. So that's what the visual evidence of the Archelaos relief is telling us. And I was just thinking and thinking of where I could find a parallel. And it wasn't really that I wanted to find a parallel. I wanted to see this image of an enthroned figure apply to Homer in his status as a cult hero. And the literature, that is to say the written evidence as preserved in the 11 texts of lives of Homer, just didn't give it to me. But then I realized all I really have to do is find images of a cult hero, a certified cult hero, whoever the cult hero is, sitting in the same way that Zeus is sitting when he is worshipped. And I found such images just an hour ago, and so I had to tell you, Claudia and Keith. And so I'm sharing the good news that this is what I'm going to try to write up in the next 24 hours.
Super exciting.
Great.
So I'm very excited.
Can't wait. And I should say, we'll be posting that on Classical Inquiries.
Yes.
So
Very soon.
very soon.
So stay tuned.
And to those of you out there who are wondering, why does this mean something special to me when I'm talking to Claudia and Keith? It's because they're my editors. And my editors and I all believe in the principle of rapid publication. But that means that if I want to come up with a good argument, I better come up with it quickly.
Tonight.
Like tonight. And at least I have the argument already.
Yeah.
So the pressure is on, but I don't know, I love the pressure. I love the challenge of working together with young people like Keith and Claudia, and how you are so much fun to talk to
Mm-hmm.
and to try to persuade about the intellectual merits of an argument. And I still feel like an old fat cat who is hunting for mice, and then when finally, after chasing one particular mouse around around my
I see where this is
my living place for the whole day, I finally, as an old cat, find the mouse, kill the mouse. Then I have to present it to the people I really love. It's, because you earned it.
Thank
You
you.
earned seeing my dead mouse.
Exactly. Well, it will be beautiful. What do you think, Keith?
I'm just happy at that metaphor.
Yeah.
I've had cats in my life. and
Yes.
This is the dead
The
mouse
gifts,
syndrome.
right? These are
well,
gifts.
we have a
These are
nice
gifts.
online catalog of all these dead mice.
Yes.
At the research blog.
That's what great.
But it makes it so much more fun when you're looking for intellectual discoveries, when you can share it with people that
Right.
you really
Yeah.
care about.
Right. So I wonder, maybe we can ask community members to think about other enthroned figures that they think of, that they've read
Yes,
of, and
yes.
we can sort of have a ongoing conversation about that over the next week or two.
I think there's nothing more interesting than a story about a discovery procedure.
Oh,
And
yeah.
sometimes the best way to write up something is to think of it as a story. What is the story of how I found something?
Ah.
Mhm.
And in this case, the story starts with despair, where I can't find anything in the written evidence. And then I find something, even though I'm not an expert in art history, in the visual evidence that people have worked on for so many years.
Oh, beautiful.
That's very exciting.
Yeah, stories of discovery.
Okay.
Well, that makes me think of a movie that just won a couple of awards last night.
Ah.
The Spotlight movie.
Oh, yes.
I'm so
Which-
dorky, so I didn't. I'll be honest. I didn't watch. So it won. Is
It
that
won
true?
a couple of, I forget which ones.
I hope it won.
But they have exciting music whenever they're doing discovery. Like the story of their discovery is like pulling books off of shelves and like looking in
That's
the
right.
books and like finding
Yes, the
things.
research.
And the
Research
background
is
music
sexy.
is building to a crescendo just
Yes.
as they find the smoking pistol.
Right,
Yes.
right.
Yes.
And that's what I like to think of when I'm doing
They should make a
research.
movie.
I know,
It's
little
need
background music
that
cheering
background
you on.
music, yeah, exactly, cheering you on.
They should make a movie about us making our discoveries.
Yes.
And I know of one person who's done that. His name is Pedro Olaya,
Uh-huh.
Olalla, who noticed that in all of Greek literature, the name Mieza, M-I-E-Z-A, occurs only once. Nowhere else but once. And
Hold on. So help me out here.
and Mieza is the place where Philip, the father of Alexander the Great, when Alexander was still a youth,
Which I can't say.
set up as the perfect place for young Alexander and his young friends to be educated by Aristotle.
Okay.
Because Aristotle was their private teacher.
That's
That's
great.
as
It's
good as it
dazzling.
gets, right? And so Pedro Olaya has this wonderful little film where he drives this sports utility vehicle through Macedonia, and he keeps looking at the what is it, the GP?
Oh, GPS.
GPS.
Yes.
The coordinates.
And then
of,
but he films himself finding the spot, driving there, camping overnight, looking up in an electronic lexicographical database the name Mieza, looking at it, reading it again. Next morning, he looks at the cave, and there it is, the place where
That's where he's waking
Alexander
up.
was educated by Aristotle.
Wow.
And not surprisingly, it really is a cave, and
Is that
so
true?
it's as if Alexander were Achilles in the cave of Chiron. So it's a kind of mythological coming to life of the
Mhm.
perfect place for a young man to be away from the luxuries of the city and to camp out and and to be educated on the site of a beautiful cave called Mieza.
Wow.
That's
And the guy made a film of himself
doing it.
Looking, sort of discovering the cave for himself.
Right.
But isn't that something? I mean, I think that sort of makes me think about one of the words we will get to a little bit later in the project. Although we've thought a little bit and talked a little bit about it already. I think theoria, right?
Oh yeah.
I mean, there's
Which
something
one did
that
you say?
theoria,
Oh yeah.
right? Which
Oh,
is,
yeah.
Do you think there's just something innately? Is it the narrative? Is it the pull? I mean, there's something innately beautiful about that
Yeah.
journey of discovery, right?
Yes,
Human
and to say theoria is to sacralize it. Of course, then the philosophers
Right.
take
So
it.
that's different. Yes, you're right. You're right. So
And-
we need
and-
to make that distinction.
And then they hijack it, and that's how we have the word theory, but it starts with a mystical experience.
Right.
That discovery is a mystical experience if,
Right,
if it
right.
happens right.
Okay,
Mhm.
so can we take this now to one of our questions in the discussion board?
I think we should segue
Okay.
to our beautiful questions. And they're beautiful because Claudia helped me more than usual with these questions.
No.
Oh,
So
yes.
hold on. Actually, we're gonna pause before we get there. We're gonna go to another one. Is that okay?
Of course it's okay.
But it's already it's a relevant question that is current on the discussion board. So someone had asked about the translation of that we have in the source book that you have in many of your focus passages. Basically, now I see it. Okay.
Yes.
Okay, and
Yes.
in the case, one of the examples I pulled was from the beginning of the Iliad. There you
Yes,
have it.
yes.
And there it is, the particle de,
Yes.
right?
yes.
And so we have several members of our community who have expressed interest in understanding more about particles and understanding more about these words that are, discourse markers.
That's what they are. Yep.
So can you talk a little bit about the use of de as I guess as a moment of realization in the present, right?
Absolutely. And before I start talking, I should give credit where credit is due, that the person who's done the most important work on this topic is Egbert, E-G-B-E-R-T, Bakker, B-A-K-K-E-R, who is a wonderful example of a field of linguistics, a subfield of linguistics called pragmatics.
Uh-huh.
And when you take a pragmatics approach to ancient Greek particles, you realize that these little things, which are embedded in Greek speech,
Yes, sir. Yeah.
these things are the equivalent of what we do in English when we speak in English. In any situation where we're making a point and we're raising our voice or lowering our voice, that is to say using pitch or intonation to give whatever we say special coloring.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
In ancient Greek, you can't use intonation that way, or not quite that way, because intonation is used for other things, like making a distinction between one word and another word. So that's how particles happen in ancient Greek. They're no longer there in modern Greek because modern Greek now has a different accentual system. So modern Greek doesn't need particles, but ancient Greek did. And just as we have special ways of indicating a question by how we use our intonation, how we configure what we say in a special kind of pitch, like raising of the voice.
Right.
Or in Valley Girl style, any statement can be raising of the voice. When Jenny says to Ollie, are we rich enough to afford a taxi? And Ollie says, yes, baby, where do you want to go? And then Jenny, the Ally McGraw figure, says, like the hospital? That's an intonation, and in ancient Greek that would be expressed with a particle.
Right.
All right, enough said about why ancient Greeks need particles. Now let's concentrate on two of them.
Yeah.
One of them, ara.
Good. Yes. This came up too.
Ra or ar, they're variations, and the other one, de.
Yeah.
And ara, you use whenever you're telling somebody something, and you, as you're telling what you're telling are visualizing what you're saying to that other person. But with ara, or ra, or ar, this particle, you see it from the get-go, and you're trying to make somebody else see it. And one way to translate that is to say, you see?
Yeah, okay.
So that's one. But you mentioned the other one, de, where while I'm talking, I'm not sure about something, but then suddenly I see it. And I'm trying to convey to the person to whom I'm speaking that I just saw something. I just saw something that I didn't a moment ago. Aha, now I see it.
And does that one also trigger to them to visualize it too?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Oh yeah. But you're being nice and you're saying, well, I see it, I hope you do. So the emphasis now is on, oh, I just thought of something, or I just saw something, literally.
Right. That is awesome.
And so that's da versus the other one.
Okay, so leave us a thread for further conversation with the community. If we were to think about another particle, is there another particle you could recommend that we might begin looking at?
Another one that would be fun to work with?
Yeah, for community members to maybe, we could pull some
Sure.
passages with it, place
Sure.
to start to understand this kind of pragmatic function.
Sure. Well, how about un, O-U-N?
Oh yeah? Okay.
Which is where you're just contextualizing, and you've reached one unit of thought, and you've pretty much exhausted it, and then you're going to say, well, on the basis of that, then what's going to happen? So
Okay.
it's kind of like so apostrophe.
Okay. Great.
Did I say so apostrophe?
Yes.
So comma. So comma.
Yes.
That's my favorite.
Is it?
In English, it's my favorite
So, okay.
construction.
Well,
So.
and I've attended a lot of interviews in my life, job
Yes.
interviews or interviews for various postdoctoral fellowships.
Yes.
And usually when somebody is asked to tell everything about themselves,
So.
and it's a really tough question, and they haven't opened their mouth yet, and then the first word they'll say is so, comma. So,
Right.
that's
Right. It gives you that second to.
Well, that too.
Right. Yeah.
And then what you really sit up and take notice about with particles
Yes.
in ancient Greek is when you don't have them. It's just the opposite of English, where you sit up and take notice when you do use the occasional particles that we have, like well, comma. In Greek, if you don't have a particle, something is very special.
Wow. So like, do you have something in mind?
Sure.
An author about?
Crete is an island in the Odyssey. One of the Cretan lies of Odysseus starts with Crete as an island, and there's no particle introducing it.
Oh, okay.
So
Good.
that
Okay, so let's
is-
pull that passage. We'll look at that. That's
Okay.
great.
Interesting.
Crete tis Gai esti.
All right. So, all right. Now let's transition to our hour 11 discussion question.
Absolutely.
So, you want to take the Crete? Do you wanna introduce that or read it to us or?
Oh, sure. Let me just pull up here. Hour 11 discussion question. Oh yes. So here we go. During hour 11, we finally read the 24th scroll of the Odyssey, reaching an important telos in our engagement with Homeric epic. As you will see, however, we are not done reading and thinking about the heroes of the Iliad and the Odyssey. Going forward, we will revisit these heroes, and other heroes as well, exploring the idea of the ancient Greek hero from further perspectives that are different from what we have seen so far. But, before we turn our attention to further traditions about heroes, I would like for us to reconsider the endings of the Iliad and Odyssey. What do the final scrolls of these epics teach us about the challenge and promise of achieving kleos and nostos, two key terms for both epics? Does what we learned about the term obios, which is our keyword for hour 11, change your reading of these scrolls, and if so, how?
It's a tough one, and it's a tough one because, in a sense, the best answers that you out there can give us, you the participants, will be after you read several more of the passages from poetry other than Homer.
What makes you say
prose
that?
other than Homer, because Homeric poetry is so guarded about hero cults. And the status of the hero as somebody who's worshipped by the society and the here and now is really played down. Or if not played down, let's say it's really shaded over. I prefer to say it that way. And the more we see how heroes are represented in other sources, not just poetry but prose, the more we'll see that there are a lot more dimensions to the hero as a cult hero. And then when we go back to the Iliad and the Odyssey, we're going to have a double take. Wow, so there's a subtext, there's some hidden agenda that I wasn't ready for when I first read the Iliad, when I first read the Odyssey. And where we see most of this hinting is in the last scroll of the Odyssey, scroll 24, and the way the word orbios is used there, the way kleos and nostos are used there. It's almost like a perfect retrospective of everything we know so far, with all the hidden agenda as well as the not hidden agenda pretty much spelled out. And now, as we read Hesiod especially, we're going to see a dimension of orbios that will, I think, really surprise some people.
Yeah. Let's talk about this transition actually to Hesiod, because let's be honest, we know from past experience that this transition can be maybe an uncomfortable transition for
It's
participants.
tough. It's a brain teaser, and this is where people, I think, get most discouraged as they go along. You know, the mood picks up again when we get into tragedy, but between the end of epic and the beginning of tragedy
Comes
is a tough stretch. It's tough, but I think essential.
Why do you think it's so hard?
Well, it doesn't live up to our expectations of exciting things. When Hesiodic poetry talks about the 5 generations of humankind, and so much of the agenda has to do with what a cult hero is.
Yes.
Well, people don't understand yet what the ancient Greek system of worshiping heroes was all about, and maybe that's not such an appealing thought to us moderns and postmoderns, whatever we are. And so I don't blame people for not getting excited about Hesiodic poetry, but that's why we also mix in some rather late things, chronologically late things, much later than the verbal art that we've been dealing with so far, like Philostratus.
Right. So you're saying not just in the next hour, but over the next few hours, right? As we start reading prose.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah. So there are going to be messy things, and we have to piece together things patiently, and at the same time keeping in mind everything we now know about heroes through the Iliad and the Odyssey. And I swear you're going to see a deeper dimension of the heroes of the Iliad and the Odyssey once we understand the cult hero, because all the readings that we're going to do now and that we'll keep on doing until we start with tragedy will be concentrating on what is a cult hero, why did people worship heroes, and what kind of powers did people think that cult heroes have.
What are you thinking, Keith, in terms of this transition?
I'm thinking about how to explain the difference between Homer and Hesiod and their approach to heroes. And one way that I've been experimenting with saying it to students is that, you know, Homer and Hesiod, we can say they're helping us understand heroes, or they're approaching the problem, how do we understand heroes? And Homer says, well, let me tell you stories about the lives that they lived before they died and became cult heroes. And Hesiod is like a theoretician of heroes. He says, here are various different sides of heroes, and let me arrange them into this generational scheme, because that's nice and pretty, or you can talk about historical antecedents to generational schemes as well. So there are two different approaches. And the Hesiod one can be boring because it's theory. It's, it's a theory of heroes.
Right.
You could say it's not like narrative action and explosions and all that kind of action movie stuff.
Right. So, are you saying it's sort of a documentary against a
It's like
a
a
Marvel
treatise
hero,
on heroes,
a superhero
versus.
Right. I love documentaries, though. By the way, that's what I. So nothing wrong with documentaries.
Yeah.
So, hold on. Can you say something about the generational paradigm that's used? You were talking about to convey this information about the hero, because I think that's one of the things that's challenging
Yes,
about
it is.
Hesiod, because it's not totally straightforward. It's a very complex picture.
Right, and it's not
Oh,
meant to be
yeah.
a narrative in the same sense. I think, as we would say, the Homeric narratives are, it starts and it ends. It's not a progression like that.
Right.
It's a cycle. I've learned from you,
Yeah.
Greg, to say it that way. And it's, well, I guess that's what I would say. It's,
Right.
I'm struggling to find another
No. That's
rewording,
fine. That's
but I think
fine.
that really says it.
It does. Yeah.
And the thing is that when you experience the Iliad
Yes.
and you see different dimensions of Achilles, it's still one Achilles. But when you get exposed to the Hesiodic myth of the 5 generations of humankind, you realize that, wow, generation 3 and generation 4, if you put them together, you get Achilles. But if you look at generation 3, it's only the violent side of Achilles.
Right.
And generation 4, oh, okay, so there are other dimensions of Achilles, and Achilles does represent moral values after all. So in another way to put it is that it's like taking cross sections of the hero at different stages of the hero's evolution in the plot of any story, and you take the cross section, you say, well, here you see the hero in his violent phase,
Yeah.
and now here you see the hero in the phase that shows him as an ultimately just person.
Right.
And it goes on and on. It's very complex.
Right.
And I think that maybe the lowest point for people who are taken through this program is Hesiod.
Okay. So I do want to give people some encouragement. I mean, I do think.
I still like
No,
it.
exactly. But it is incredibly beautiful, right?
Yeah.
You're going to think
And
about.
artful.
Right. And I think. Can I plug?
Please.
Philostratus, right?
Oh my God.
Because I think it's actually one of the most exciting things we
But
read.
there, what's not to like? I mean, that's why we're mixing Hesiod, and if you look up Hesiod in Google, they'll punt and guess at a date like 7th century or 6th century BCE. Then you look up Philostratus, early 3rd century CE.
Right.
That's 1,000 years apart. And you get different benefits from reading things like that, all having to do with hero cult. And I would say people do like Philostratus, or they do like the chunks of Philostratus that we serve them.
Right.
But I think Hesiod is another matter. Well, but we don't make them read all that much,
No.
so it's not that big a pain.
Right. And also, we're going to be reading Herodotus, right? Which
Well,
I think many people
Herodotus is, I think, utterly charming. That's how I became a classicist ultimately.
I didn't know this.
I was reading the translation of Herodotus by somebody called de Selincourt,
Uh-huh.
when I was in my teens, and I thought, where has this been all my life? Of course, I have different stories about why I became
That's
a
okay.
classicist.
No,
Today,
fair
my
enough.
story is that
Fair enough.
this is what did it.
So tell me, what was it about? What were you reading? Do you remember the passage?
Oh yeah, it's where this tyrant thinks that his wife is the most gorgeous woman on earth, and insists that his bodyguard have a look.
Uh-huh.
Mistake, big mistake.
Not going to go well.
You can just tell this is not going to go well.
Right. Okay, great. Well, I know our community members will look forward to reading that. We do have to sign off. You know, we didn't go too deep into the responses on hour 11, but maybe we could do that on the board, okay?
Sure. Sure. Are you saying that we have to stop now?
We do, because unfortunately I need to hit the road.
Oh, I hate to stop, but,
I know.
but let's go to the board then.
Yes, okay.
Yeah.
Keith,
Great.
any parting words?
No.
No,
I'm
good.
all set.
All right. So life is good.
My parting words are, and usually Keith is the ritual substitute when we function as teachers in a classroom, because I think Keith usually gets sacrificed before I do, and so no wonder he's saying, I don't think I want to say anything more, but I'll say is you're in for a rough ride, but it's worth it.
I like it. Awesome. Okay. Well, thank you so much for your time, and I look forward to next week. Bye.